you saw the civil rights era. How does this compare? What do you feel about what you're seeing? Is this time different?
I think it is. It's more of, in the civil rights era, it was confined mostly to the South. This movement is all over. And this movement is in areas that I wouldn't have imagined that people were thinking about social injustice. Because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And they're sick and tired of that this may happen to you kind of thing. So I'm really feeling a groundswell of a movement that wasn't in the civil rights era, because not everybody was on the bandwagon. It was just us, and then we'd have some Northerners that would come down, the Freedom Riders, if you've heard about them. But this is all over, from California to Florida to, I've not seen anything like that, and France and other countries.
What can be done specifically, policy changes that can really make a difference?
I think if I go back, if you go back to the civil rights era, you would like to think that people's attitudes are going to change overnight. Well, that's just not going to happen. So I don't for one minute think that integration in the South would have happened without laws and policy changes. People aren't born racist. It's something that they develop from whatever source. But you have to make things sort of happen. And doors have to be, at least I'm talking about the civil rights era, doors had to be forced open for us to go and sleep in those hotels. And doors had to be forced open for me to go to the integrated to integrate the high school. So it has to start at the federal level. Local level laws, sure, and state level, but federal. It wasn't until the federal government came in those states in the South that things changed, because the states kind of, they were vacillating between Republicans and Democrats, those that were the still sticking to the Confederacy versus not. But it wasn't until laws, Lyndon Baines Johnson signing laws and these kind of things went into effect that things changed.
Are there any particular laws, or is this a financial investment type of policy? Is it home loans? What kind of policies?
First of all, I think the issue of healthcare disparity should be made a federal project. I think that Congress should say, we're going to look into the root cause analysis in every state if necessary to find out why we have healthcare disparities in this country when it shouldn't be. So legislation, whether it be more funding for pushing states to do more Medicaid expansion, that would significantly help, because where do you see a lot of the sickest African Americans and Latinos? In those countries in those states where you don't have Medicaid expansion. So that, I have to think about, I'm thinking about that now in terms of what policies would I like to have changed. I think, the police thing, I think it has nothing to do with healthcare disparities, but let's face it, that's one of the things that sort of generated this whole process. It was a perfect storm.
Some people might look at you and President Obama and say, well, you're shining examples that anyone can succeed and rise to the highest level in their profession regardless of your race.
That's true too, but not everybody had the same kind of advantages. Not everybody had mentors. Obama had a lot of mentors. I had mentors. A lot of kids early on don't have access to technology and those things to give them a leg up. Yes, I'm a success story, but I never forget that, but for the grace of God, there go I. Mentorship is important for these kids, and they don't have it. Yeah, I succeeded, and a lot of my colleagues, but when you look around, they had families. And I also don't think that, here's another thing that I have a problem with. I don't think you have to have a mom and dad in the house to be a success. I always point out President Obama. His father wasn't alive, wasn't involved in his family. But again, you have to have mentors and people to push you.
So what do you do in these families where they don't have a strong male role model? Maybe it has been babies having babies, and it's become a cycle. What can we do about that?
Well, I belong to several organizations, and I know of several African American men's organizations that have taken on the responsibility of reaching back and pulling up. It's a massive job because poverty in this country is massive. The disparities of the haves and the have-nots is huge. And I think it's lofty to think that you're going to solve every one of those problems overnight. But I call them baby steps. So if you can get what a lot of the African American male organizations are coming together, and on Saturdays they have mentoring programs for these kids. They'll take them out for a hamburger, to have somebody just to talk to. I belong to an organization called the Links Incorporated, and we're all over the United States and in England. And we have many, many projects in our chapters that have to do with mentoring and taking these young girls specifically out and showing them that somebody that looks like me can be a physician. I didn't have a lot of that, which sometimes got sort of depressing, like, could I be a nuclear physicist? But I think if you see somebody that looks like you, and I think it's important for us as mentors, I try to do a lot of, I haven't done it recently, but go into schools and talk to kids. I'm always volunteering to go in and talk to kids about what it's like to become a doctor. And you would be amazed at how they just, it's like you're a magnet. They just want to know, what's it like? But they're not gonna, if they don't have an opportunity to express that,
or see you and know you.
Or see me, right. So even with my own children, I have often said, kids can go down one pathway or another pathway. I worked in corrections a lot. And there are those that say I was more of a social worker than I was a doctor. Because I just sort of felt that any one of those could be my children. And for whatever reason, they took that pathway. And one of my kids could have taken that pathway. And what made the difference? And when I would sit and talk to them, instead of being the doctor that I should have been, a lot of it had to do with home, that upbringing, that mom or that dad. So that's why I first and foremost, I think mentoring. They have to have somebody to talk to, somebody to show them that you can get out of this and make it.
Built for the 21st century American workforce, Eastern Gateway Community College has 2 campuses and is a national leader in online learning. EGCC.edu is a digital gateway where 30,000 students are quickly transforming their financial futures through degrees, certificates, transferable credits, and higher paying jobs. And now, residents of the Mahoning Valley can enroll in summer classes for free. It's the EGCC Summer Guarantee. Eastern Gateway. America's new workforce starts here.